tonight on the Black Channel. Boy, what a difference a year makes. A lot of people thought it was going to look radically different than it currently does. And we are the people at the heart of all these changes. The Black Channel is live. Oh, yes, indeed. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, the everlasting super fortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media, and this is the Black Channel. I am, of course, your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college and university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall for a proud Black Channel tradition. While other people out there fake and fraud their way through things, we are the true believers. This is what we have always done, because white supremacy does not take a holiday and black empowerment doesn't either. So while other people are sitting around eating the cake, popping fireworks, being honorary citizens, we are here continuing the work among our true brothers and sisters. And this is the way it will remain. There's a reason that we've made the progress that we have in the last 2 decades. And this type of dedication, this type of commitment, this type of consistency, this type of uncompromising position is the reason we've done it. And I'm glad to have all of you here with us here this evening. I'm going to do something a little bit different than I usually do. And we've already got hundreds of people here, over 1,000 people here so far. So it is very glad to see that kind of thing. Let me go ahead and just take it back just a little bit. And this is going to be a full weekend, by the way. Got a lot that's happening or going to be happening here this weekend. So going to be a full weekend, so we might as well just go ahead and kick it off. You know, things are radically different today than they were over 15 years ago. Back then, there were only a couple of thousand people. I remember the days back when my live broadcasts had 150, 200 people. 150, 200 people. Back then, it was normal to hear, "Oh, y'all fools with that pro-black stuff." That pro-black stuff. We were mocked and ridiculed and maligned, and it was difficult to do this. It was difficult to do this because it was rare. It wasn't easy to do this. People are always looking for a chance and an opportunity to express and indulge their weakness. And I warned people back then how it would be and how it would unfold. I warned them back then that the people who followed us into 2015, into 2018, into 2020, into 2021 would not be the people who would follow us out of those years. And every year, it has borne itself out. The folks who started with us, there's a lot of them who started with us who are not here today. And this is good. You see, what would have snuffed us out a long time ago is if we had chased being the most popular, if we had chased numbers, if we had chased trends, if we had chased algorithms. Why, I would have changed up the program years ago. I would have changed up the program years ago in the pursuit of more eyeballs, in the pursuit of more popularity, in the pursuit of more ads. I've never been ad driven, and I've never chased popularity. And I haven't done that because you haven't. The people listening to me, that's not you. I haven't chased a festive, fun environment because your life ain't a party. And your life isn't a celebration. And your life isn't some get-together with family and friends. You've had years of solitude, years of loneliness, years of isolation, years of questioning yourself. Many of you have lost friends. Many of you have lost family. I don't mean physically, but you've lost them socially because you have refused to compromise. You have refused to pretend that what you clearly see in front of you is not what you see in front of you. So you scrounged together the courage to question everything and to stand by what you knew was right. And this has not been easy for you to do. I have people who contact me all the time. If I open up the phone lines tonight, I would have phone lines that would be jammed for the next 3-4 weeks. I know what you've been through. I know what you've seen. I know what you've had to deal with. I've watched it. I've witnessed it. And I've been more than just sympathetic to it. What we do requires sacrifice. The reason that we're in the mess today is because we had previous generations who gave lip service to sacrifice but did not actually do it. We had conversations that were weighed down by your psychological baggage of attempting to save your parents or save your cousins or save your friends. All we've done here is calibrate you to saving yourself and people like you. And to stop pretending that other folks who are fighting you are the people that you need to save. If they are not lifting up their hands to be rescued, they don't want to be saved. And it's not your responsibility to beat them into submission so they can be. So you stopped chasing a big tent, large numbers. You stopped chasing a majority and to convince the majority that you are correct. Instead of trying to convince the majority, you have instead chosen to stand firm by your principles, to stand consistent, to stand reliable, and you didn't have to change a thing. Everyone else has had to change for you. I gave you the math a decade ago that said the studies have shown if 10% of a population changes, it becomes inevitable that their position becomes the majority. And slowly but surely, you've seen it change. We don't hear a lot of the mocking that we used to hear. Why, the folks who used to ridicule us and mock us, where are they? Why, you don't see them now do you? The people who used to be saying a lot of things, you don't see them anymore, now do you? That's the power of consistency. They asked us what the agenda was. We told them that the agenda was black empowerment. They asked us what that looked like. We said socioeconomic dominance. They told us it was never going to happen. They told us it was never going to occur. They told us that the best we could do, the best we could expect, was to be the lapdogs and lackeys of some political party that would openly in our faces tell us what wasn't going to happen and what we couldn't do. So what we did was we started getting together ourselves. The Black Channel has simply served as a lighthouse to the converted, simply to communicate to you one thing. The Black Channel was created to communicate to you one singular thing. That you're not by yourself. That you're not alone. That you're not crazy. That we see exactly what you see. We see the effects. We see the consequences. You're not stupid. You're not dumb. You're not blind. You're not crazy. And most importantly, you're not wrong. And everyone has attempted to conspire around you and gaslight you and bully you and intimidate you and beat you into submission and to tell you to get back in line and don't say those things. Don't even think those things. But you got together here and you found a place where people said these things unapologetic, unadulterated, and uncompromisingly. And that gave you the courage to go back and start questioning even more. I have open microphones. I have open phone lines. I have since the day that I started this. When I started this, it used to be the norm for people to have open lines. That used to be the norm. But you see, things change. They changed because they had to. And I knew that they would. People don't take open calls anymore for the most part. They don't really do that. Outside of Twitter space, they don't do that. And here on YouTube, they don't do it at all. And the reason for that is because they know that their ideologies and their beliefs are flawed. They know that they're broken. They know that they can't stand up to scrutiny. So they're terrified of the idea of opening up a phone line, no phone screener, no pretext, no heads up to what it's going to be about. You just got to take cold calls and sit it down in front of the world and allow the world to witness whether or not what you're saying withstands scrutiny logically. But I take it one step further. And I like to believe that this is what's giving you confidence in why you come here and what you hear. I take it a step further. People who disagree with me are required to call in. What? Oh, they're required to step up. Everybody knows if you see disagreement, well, you got to come over here. So people, you see, if the ideology was flawed, if the ideology was broken, if the ideology was contradictory, then you would have had some smart aleck. You would have had some college student. You would have had some PhD who'd be able to call up and very quickly slice and dice and debunk. That's what you would have seen. You would have seen that. But you haven't. There would have been some Ben Shapiro. There would have been some Michael Eric Dyson. One of them by now certainly would have stepped up to the plate and very quickly and easily debunked everything. It would have been a simple matter. Jason, let him talk. Let him talk. I let him talk. I let people last weekend while they call in. If they were able to do it, it would be very, very easy and very simple to show us where the inconsistency is in what we're doing and where the flaw is in our logic and reasoning. It'd be very easy to show it, and then we hit a brick wall where our only response would have to be about our feelings. Well, I feel this is right. I feel it work. Well, I'm just not happy. I'm unpleased. We would have to say that. And that's not what we do here. No, when you come here, we stick strictly to the logic and the reasons. We stick strictly to that. And you have to show us that the logic and the facts are in error. And that ain't happening.
And deal with it.
Not occurring. So you see, we didn't have to change anything. The rest of the world has had to change for us. Now, in more recent years, they have attempted to play chicken with us. They've attempted to play chicken with us because, you see, they told us the strategy that they've always used since LBJ is, well, you need to choose the lesser of the two evils. One of us is gonna beat you 5 times, but the other one is gonna beat you 20. So you need to support the one who's going to abuse you for an hour or 2 a day. Not the one who's gonna abuse you for 5 or 6 hours. And now you're winning. That's what they told us our choices were. They told us that was the only thing that we could choose between, that we had to choose the lesser of the two evils, but nothing that was actually in our interests. And then they went a step further. Why, they've tried to rely on the old dead black media, to the old church crowd, to get together and tell us, by the way, you shouldn't even want anything.
What?
Why, they said that we shouldn't even want anything. That the only thing that we should want is the opportunity to support their political party, and that's all we actually need. And that anything else beyond that is just stupid, and that we're in the wrong for it. And it took a little time. It took a little time. See, what I've really done over the past decade is to get everybody to just hold together and stand firm until eventually you started seeing the results. These other folks told you it could not happen, it would not occur, and now you're witnessing as it's here. And the old folks are out there still trying to convince you that doom and gloom is around the corner, not because of what we said. Oh, I mean, doom and gloom is certainly here, but they're trying to tell you it's not because of what we said. That's because if we don't follow what they say. And you've sat and you've watched and you've witnessed and you've waited to see whether or not it was going to pan out the way that they said it, and it hasn't. Once again, if our logic and reasoning could be debunked and disproven, they would have already done it. They would have done it over a decade ago. So they spend a lot of time pitching and moaning about what we say, but they're not actually debunking anything. They're not disproving anything. All they're doing is complaining about how hard we're making it for them to be able to get their little chips from their political party masters. They're not saying what it is that we as a people are supposed to be getting. And in due time, people have kept asking and asking. And some of you were resistant to it. Some of you were plugging into your parents and grandparents. So some of you had a little bit of a hard time letting go of the programming. Some of you did. And I understand. You needed time to shake that off. And as time has gone on, as you saw that we didn't get struck down by lightning, as you saw that we didn't get vaporized, you started asking yourself, you know what, if these other folks were right, why haven't you been vaporized already? Maybe I should ask a few more questions. And they did. And they have. And the results speak for themselves. They attempted to cow us into submission and to tell us that the world was going to fall apart if we didn't listen to them. Well, we didn't listen to them. We went the other way. And now we've taken on a ideology of don't try to play chicken with us because we're going to let you burn. Don't tell us that the world's going to end if we don't do what you say. Let this son of a gun end then. We're calling your bluff. They've been saying for the longest time about how calamity would happen if we didn't bow down and suck up their garbage. And we said, you know what? We don't believe you. Show us this calamity that you claim is going to occur. And folks, do you realize here that left and right, the old dead media, not just the old dead black media, I'm showing you all the old dead media is taking back-to-back L's. The law firms, ABC, CBS. So far as I can tell, it's only been judgment day for them. Things are going as they always have over here. The only folks who are really sucking up L's are those folks over there. maybe that was the real reason. Maybe that was their real cause for telling us that we need to endlessly support them. Maybe they weren't trying to save us from anything this whole damn time. Maybe they were just trying to save themselves at our expense. Maybe that's what they were really trying to do. Well, we sat back and said, you know what? We ain't saving nobody else. We're not caping for anyone else. And now you're seeing everybody else catching the back-to-back L's. And what they now realize is that if you want our support will come with requirements. You're no longer going to get a free damn ride. You won't get to practice benign neglect. And you damn sure won't sit here and undermine us actively in our faces nor behind our backs. You will not have paid black shills and flunkies and lackeys to carry your water and carry your message and tell the rest of us that we need to just fall in line. Over a decade and a half ago, I said something that scared a lot of people. When I said it back then, it was new, it was novel, it was frightening to a bunch of people. I said that what we need to have in black society is a civil war, that we have to have a once and for all knock down, drag out to determine who it is who is going to lead us forward with the ideology that we will follow. That we're either going to sit here and listen to the old dead black media, the civil rights baby boomer church crowd that doesn't give a damn what we get or what we don't get, because all them niggas sucked up all the cocaine and blow and all the deviancy they could handle. That, and as far as they're concerned, they're all right at the bottom. They've been made comfortable at the bottom. That the choice will be between being led by them or being led by all of us who say that we need to reclaim our rightful place. And that's what it's been about, period. Now, when I first said those words, why, it set off a maelstrom back then. A maelstrom. Look it up. It set off a firestorm back then. Why, everybody and their mama jumped up. They would call me on the phones and tell me, you wrong. We need to focus on black unity. You wrong. And if you wish to know what the Black Channel is here for, one of the primary purposes that we serve is for me to sit and listen to the arguments that people make and to give you a compact, reasonable, logical response that refutes it. So when people started talking to me about black unity for things that were self-destructive, as you all remember, my response was, if black unity means joining together with the Candace Owenses and the Thomas Sowells and the Michael Eric Dysons and the Mark Lamont Hills who actively campaign against us, if that is black unity, then to hell with black unity. I don't want unity. If that's what unity is, I don't want unity. I want empowerment. Damn unity. If that's what unity is, I want empowerment. And we'll call that unity. Why they thought that we would back down, why they thought that we would change, why they thought we would take the easy route, why they thought that we would compromise. They thought that one day it would eventually get around to that, and then they woke up year after year and realized we weren't gonna budge, we weren't gonna move, we were dead ass serious, and the black unity chant withered on the vine. And it was replaced with a slogan of black empowerment. You see, people have attempted to scare you and frighten you. and tell you that if you didn't do what they said, that the world would come to an end. All we've done is stand firm to get you to say, dare them, call their bluff. If something bad is really going to happen, first of all, what could be worse than where you already are? Tell us specifically how it's going to get worse. You see, that's how we debunked the liars and the frauds of the old dead black media and black academia. We told them, tell us how things are going to be worse than they currently are. How is it going to be worse than where we're currently at right now? And they should have very easily, very simply been able to define it and explain it and then debunk us. So we were able to debunk them, but they were unable to debunk us. Now that showed the world who was right. They attempted to frighten us, scare us, and it didn't work. They tried to bully us, and it didn't work. So now they are on the decline. You know, a decade ago, I gotta bring this full circle for everyone here. You know, a decade ago, you remember there were the Melissa Harris Perrys and the Goldie Taylors and the Roland Martins and the Michael Eric Dysons all over the place. Oh, and little old Joy Reid was just on the come up. And Tiffany Cross was meandering around out there. All these corporate niggas. Did he say niggas? I damn sure did.
And deal with it, nigga.
All these corporate niggas out there campaigning for a job, looking for scraps off the table, would say anything and everything for that little old check. Where are all of them now? Where is Angela Rye, by the way? Damn! Oh, we going there. Where is, by the way, when's the last time anybody even mentioned Jemele Hill?
Nigga, please.
When's the last time anybody said the name Jamila Lemieux?
Oh, please.
Oh, man. Oh, y'all didn't want me to go back through the crates for this. Did y'all really want me to go back through the crates for this? Oh, has anybody even said their damn name? It doesn't even have, market value anymore. It doesn't even have market value anymore. We used to be able to say it and, folks cared. It just deteriorated to a point that saying it didn't do any good. Nobody gave a damn. Nobody gave a damn. That's what became the problem. Yeah, what happened to Don Lemon? Whatever happened to them, man? What happened to any of them? The folks who are afraid, remember, they were afraid to acknowledge the new black media. They were afraid to do that. Whatever happened to them? Where are they at today? Anybody tuned in? Anybody watching? Let me know where Joy Reid's next gig is going to be. I'd like to know. Where's Joy Reid's next gig at? We waiting for the big comeback. Yeah, things are a lot different today than they used to be. Whole lot different today. And a lot of the folks who are at the top of their game and at the forefront of folks' imaginations, all of a sudden you can't find them. Oh man, that ran aground and sank real quick now, didn't it? And today, we're still here. The political parties are talking about us. They're talking about us. You see, when I started doing this, I could have done what the old dead black media did. I could have attempted to convince people. Nobody figured that we would go on a generational mission. I wrote off the civil rights generation a decade and a half, 2 decades ago. I wrote them off then as a group. There was no point in fighting with a bunch of folks who A, created the problem, and B, had a vested interest in keeping things the way they are. Shall I say the way they were? The civil rights generation had a vested interest in keeping things the way they were. They didn't want there to be a national conversation about where they got things wrong. They didn't want there to be a black Nuremberg. They didn't want us to start checking paperwork. They didn't want that because they knew that if we started checking paperwork, we were going to see that most of their paperwork came back dirty as hell. And so they had a vested interest in telling us, look here, y'all just need to respect your elders. Shut the hell up and don't ask no questions. Unfortunately for them, we didn't shut up. We didn't respect the elders. And we've been asking hella questions. And it has not gone at all the way they wish it did. We're having forbidden conversations, and gleefully so. We are having conversations that they told us were forbidden, and gleefully so. They were telling themselves that we were never going to be able to have a forum where we talk about these things on a regular basis. They said that we were never going to make that work. They were expecting everybody to get tired and to scatter. That isn't what happened. We didn't get tired. We didn't scatter. We kept coming back, and now we are bigger and more influential than ever. And it's the other folks who today have become irrelevant. It's the other people. One of the things I've had to convince folk of was patience. It's been hard to get people to accept patience. See, folks are in discomfort, and we've had to help people to weather being in discomfort until we could fix the problem. These other folks told you the only problem is that you're fighting the discomfort. You need to just accept it for what it is. We told you no, get stronger against it. That's the only way you're going to stop it. And folks started asking different questions. They started asking questions about who are these folk who are trying to sell you on subservience? Who are these people and what are they getting? And folks started realizing who these folks were and what they were getting. They're getting paid. Roland Martin was getting paid by the Biden administration, by the Hillary Clinton campaign, by Kamala Harris. Roland Martin is paid by the Democrats. The Democrats been paying them. They pay all these folk. They pay the Al Sharptons. They pay the Michael Eric Dysons. These folks get a check for being mobbed up with Democrats. They get a check for going along with the party line. They have conversations with these people. Roland Martin got busted with that with Donna Brazile helping Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016. These folk get paid. So you're not watching some independent thinkers who somehow were able to break through and make a name. All them niggas were raised up. The Tom Joyners and the D.L. Hugleys and the Steve Harveys. You see, during 2024, I had to sit here and dissect those things for everybody to show you, look, what we've always been saying, this is true. Steve Harvey talking about how Kamala Harris came to his ranch. A nigga like that talking about a ranch, sit down. D.L. Hughley and, oh, when we talked in my house. So you see, these niggas sit here and have brunch and dinner with these folks. So it's very clear, those are the house niggas. Nigga, please. The house niggas get their little invites, and the house niggas are sent out to corral the rest of us. Like Steven from Django Unchained, their job is to be able to have the credibility that their white paymasters don't. And their job is to march out there and get those unruly field Negroes back in line. Why don't you have credibility among your people? And if there's been one glorious thing after the debacle and disaster that was the 2024 election for the Democrats, it is that we have permanently proven that the celebrity class and the entertainer class has zero influence among the people. They didn't want that to go public like that. They didn't want that to be exposed in front of the world when you've got no less than Beyonce Knowles and Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion and Samuel L. Jackson and Tyler Perry and Michael Jackson. Okay, not Michael Jackson, but you get the idea. They had everybody but James Brown up there talking about vote for Kamala Harris. They pulled Jermaine Dupri out of mothballs. I guess Diddy wasn't available. What? Okay, no, never mind. I don't want to start that up. He could have made a jailhouse phone call, but I digress. They pulled Jermaine Dupri out of mothballs, and they thought that was going to be a home run. Do you realize how far out of touch you got to be? They thought that Jermaine Dupri was going to be the home run. They thought Jermaine Dupri was going to be the game changer. You notice some of the folks you didn't see. You didn't really see Killer Mike with a high profile. You didn't really see T.I. with a high profile. Them fellas who had already gone through the George Floyd uprisings, they had a better idea of what the real political sentiment on the ground was. And a lot of them decided to fall back. A lot of them decided we better fall back because we've seen this song and dance before. The sentiment on the ground is decidedly negative. It's decidedly negative. The environment has changed. Now, for me, the capstone was the decapitation of Barack Hussein Obama as a political influence. 2024 has marked the end. Put the gravestone on top of him. 2024 marks the official end and expiration of the influence and legitimacy of Barack Obama. He tried hard, he gave it his best shot, and it failed spectacularly. He is now a net negative. Now, this has been a campaign that we've been on now for the better part of the last 15 years to reframe him and to create the proper narrative about him. And because he cannot hold a town hall, he cannot hold an interview addressing the real issues, he cannot speak about the things that actually matter, because he can't do that, he can't actually succeed. Not anymore. Now, for me, that was a personal feather in the cap, if you will. That was a personal milestone for me to make sure that he could not keep coming back out here and be taken seriously. Now, no one is afraid of him. No one is afraid to speak against him. Even the corporate media had to start openly speaking against him. That's it. He's done. He is now sent off into squalor and to the Davy Jones locker along with Hillary Clinton. The Obama era is dead. Took us a decade to make sure that they flatlined and stayed that way. Took a minute. Folks kept coming back with the defibrillator pads and resuscitating them. Took us a minute to make sure it stayed dead this time. But yeah, this time they all the way dead. And now, please understand that we are not at the beginning of the end. This is just the end of the beginning. We have a lot of work ahead of us. We have a whole lot of work ahead of us, but we also don't have anything else to do, and certainly nothing better to do. So we cannot rest on our laurels. We cannot rest on our laurels, and we will not change what we're doing. So, Jason, what are we doing now? Why, the strategy has not changed. We said reparations or no vote. We said reparations or no support. Reparations across the board simply means centering a black agenda. That is what reparations across the board means. And specifically to redress the grievances of the descendants of the American slaves who have been subjected to a non-stop campaign of terror, disenfranchisement, oppression, and discrimination that continues unbroken to this very day. We have set about to catalog all of the things that have been done to us, every wrong that has been committed, and that those are the things that have to be addressed. It used to be that people said it in quiet terms. They were real shy. They were real meek. Nobody's like that anymore. It's now legit to be able to talk about specifically these things. Now, what happened was the political parties, specifically the Democrats, and the corporate media, the corporate white supremacist media, went to work to try to say that those things didn't matter. Well, that blew up in their faces. So now they're stuck in this real weird area because they are afraid to commit to anything. Follow me. I'm giving you all an update. I'm giving you an update on the status quo as it proceeds. I'm giving an update on the status quo as it proceeds. You see, 2024, I told you all that they were going to blame us for Kamala Harris's loss. And that is exactly how it occurred. They're going to blame us. But then folks say, what are they going to do going forward? And I told you, they're going to double down. They're one election is not going to be enough to break them, no matter how disastrous it was. One election will not be enough to break them. They're going to try to figure out how they can reconstitute and recalibrate the strategy to work. But they've run into a problem. You see, they had to do some soul searching. They had to do some soul searching, and they had to have a brutally honest assessment, because what we've discovered since the election is that they had a disastrous tanking of their support among their donors. The donors, the money people, are not interested in putting money into bad investments. So you see, the collapse of their support was so tremendous. It was so catastrophic that being able to just bounce back isn't happening as easily as they had hoped it would be. They were hoping that the money people would just keep pumping money in because they were the only game in town. And what they've discovered is that the money people now no longer trust them, which was one of the things that I was documenting after the election in 2024 so that I could have an accurate assessment of how things were progressing. The money people are holding tight onto their wallets. They ain't really breaking bread as easy because the money people realize that the internet runs the show now. The internet runs the show. The internet steers the conversation. And that if you cannot actually get control of that, if you cannot get in step with what's happening online, then nothing else is going to work. Going to MSNBC and CNN is not going to get you across the finish line anymore. As a matter of fact, it's going to stop you. So the donor class is looking to see if these other people ever learn how to talk internetese. And so far, it has been disastrous. So they know they need to talk to us, but they don't know how. Because they know that as soon as they say something to us, we're going to get straight to the issue. And what they're showing is that they don't really know how they can pivot and circumvent it. We know all the trick bag language. We just telling them straight tangibles now. And they're trying to figure out, well, what do we say to give you nothing while fooling you into thinking you might get something? And what they're now conceding is they don't have anything. They've been working on it day and night. They can't figure it out. The trick bag ain't got no more tricks. We're going to go ahead and jump over here on Zoom. Let me go ahead and see if we can get over here on Zoom. All right, we got Crystal here on Zoom. Crystal, what's on your mind?
Hi.
Turn off your speakers, Crystal.
Yes.
Auntie, chill.
Hold on. Let me put my volume down. Hold on. This is my first time ever zooming into Jason, and I appreciate everything you're saying to my people today.
Which borough of New York you from?
I am originally from Brooklyn, New York.
There you go.
Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
All
and
right.
I moved to, and I also resided in Baltimore, Maryland. And right now I'm residing in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, the realtors told them to go to the Carolinas. All right, what's on your mind?
And basically, I agree with everything you say. I'm a 60 baby, born in 62. And I thank God for you, that you waking up our people. I just thank God. Because I was on the ground level of doing a lot of outreach and stuff like that with my people in the community. I worked in the community. I was a ground person in Baltimore, Maryland, with my brothers and sisters, making sure they got their health care and everything. And I worked in the health field particularly. And what you're saying as far as them trying to overtake or whatever it was with the media and with Roland Martin. I was a Roland Martin fan. Don't get me wrong. I was a Roland Martin fan back in the day. Because I wasn't used to the YouTube environment at that time. And when YouTube came in, I wasn't used to the YouTube environment at the time. So I was just going. You used to be a
Tom Joyner listener?
No, I wasn't a Tom. Yeah, in the morning. Yes, I was.
There you go.
Because he was the black station, right, on the radio in the morning time when I drove my kids to school. So I would listen to Tom Joyner in the morning because that was the one that was on the station, the black station. You understand? And
yeah, I mean, and that's how they got a lot of the folk. You know, if you had your quote urban station, there was one. We had one here in Shreveport that Tom Joyner was on there. And back in the 90s, for example, you know, after Rodney King and things, Tom was that's where the black folk gathered. And so Tom would be talking about some of it. And okay, you're talking about some of it, right? And then there would come the pivot. There's where the issue came in. So, yeah, he talked about our issues for half a minute. Okay, we're acknowledging there's some racism out there for half a minute. But the solution was always, all right, now everybody go vote Democrat. And round and round we go.
Yeah. And I went through that circle. I did. I admit that. I went through that circle. Because sometimes what you learn and what you've been taught, and you have to get out of that. You have to get out of that circle. You have to get out of that. And sometimes it's hard because it's ingrained into your lifestyle, into your living. And I know that it took me a minute to get out of that lifestyle. And I praise and I thank you, Lord, for you, because you're waking up our people and you telling them, no, 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 it's another way. It's another gate. Besides that, it's another gate.
Now, were you listening to Roland Martin online, or were you listening to him on the radio, or both?
No, I listened to online. It was online. You know, I'm no longer a part of that.
Well, what did you like about what Roland was saying when he was online?
Well, when I was online with Roland Martin, he was talking about because I was really you know, my people, Democrat. So I was on that Democrat. And so we were talking about the Democrat this and, you know, vote for the Democrat and all that crap. I didn't, after a while, I was like, hold up, wait a minute. And then once I got online, because I'm a senior, I'm 62 years old, and I wasn't really connected to the website, and I'm an old school, and I wasn't really connected to the website, and I was just getting graduate, you know, just kind of like looking into different things that my people were talking about, and I listened to a lot of other websites just as well, not just yours. And when I listened to a lot of my brothers, my young brothers and sisters talk about a lot of issues, and I had to put it all together. And by me being at my age, I had to realize, look, something is not right with this situation that we're going through in this country right now. And by you stepping up and saying, no, we're not going to accept anything. No, we're not going to just go ahead and just say, oh, we're going to accept Roland Martin's thoughts, or we're going to accept this Negro thoughts or that Negro thoughts. No.
Well, it's a whole difficult thing to be able to do that.
I have grandbabies that's right now, that's living this life right now. And I have to make sure that they are secure in what's going on in this country.
Well, I thank you very much for that, ma'am. Thank you very much for giving us a call. I want to move along here. Let me see if I can get Superpower Media. I got folks piling up on Zoom. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Superpower Media up here. All right, Superpower, what's on your mind, brother?
Yeah, brother Jason, man, I had to call in tonight, you know, on 4th of July, because whatever all the things that you spilled out tonight is so true. When I first heard you on YouTube, I had never heard nobody talk like that, and I immediately I was the number one, you know, fan, you know, saying not just fan, but I was like, I gotta hear this. I gotta continue to hear this, because you was teaching us something different than a lot of these fake newscasters. They would always go, like you said, they would always go to the edge, but they would never go as far as y'all went as a new black media. And where people didn't realize is that the new black media came on the scene. The first thing they did, the politicians did, they didn't want to acknowledge. They tried to act like y'all wasn't there.
Yep.
So they would never mention y'all. They would never do any of that.
Not publicly, but they were mentioning us behind the scenes. But yes,
behind the scenes.
Publicly, no, we did not exist. So the strategy then was quarantine. That was the strategy then.
And then what I noticed when I started hearing, when they first started mentioning, they mentioned your quote, cut the check. That's when I said, "Ooh, they listening."
That was when the strategy shifted.
I think it was Buttigieg.
No, that was Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer, who's a billionaire, who's running for president. But he was the first one really who publicly acknowledged that. But and that was when the strategy shifted from quarantine, which is pretend they don't exist so you can isolate them, to inoculation. Okay, you have to actively acknowledge they exist and you have to do something about them. So what we're going to do is engage them in a way in which we figure it'll chip away at their support. That was what the strategy was. And what they realized was by the time you got around to openly trying to confront our ideas, it was too late. By the time you got around to that, you should have been confronting it directly. But even if you did, you're still going to have to give a better argument than us. And we're not trying to fool anybody or bamboozle anyone. That was why it didn't work. So when they did start trying to inoculate us, they didn't even have a drug to inoculate us with.
And these were old COINTEL strategies they was using. They still trying to use them, but they it's outdated right now. And the other strategy they used is when the first time they ever shut down your channel, and they thought we was going to go away, but we sat there patiently and we waited, and you built the other channel, and we came immediately back to your channel, in droves, because it's like we had to have it because you were speaking the truth better than anybody we ever heard. And so then they tried again. They shut your channel down again. And they was doing it to a lot of the new black media.
What was happening was that in the Tom Joyner days, you all had to tolerate disingenuous people, deceitful people, and half measures. Now you can get exactly what you're looking for. You don't have to tolerate deceit and disingenuousness and half measures anymore. Now you can get exactly what you're looking for and put your support behind exactly what you're looking for. That was not possible in the broadcast television days, in the broadcast radio days, Johnson Publications. That wasn't possible then. It's only become possible now, and that's it. The genie's out the bottle. I'll let you have the last word.
And also, the politicians they don't never come to the new black media because they're scared. They'll definitely go to the mainstream media because their mainstream media don't ask them any hard questions like reparations and stuff like that. They run away from the new black media like it's the plague. And I like the lady said, I thank God for the new black media. Man, keep stomping on them, man. Put the boots on the ground. We're going to keep on pushing forward.
Thank you very much for giving us a call now. We appreciate that. Look, folks, here is the real lunacy of the politicians not speaking to the new black media. Not that I'm desperate to have them, not that I demand to have them. I'm perfectly fine being able to disseminate what we do without their interference, quite frankly. But here's why it's really a negative for them. Roland Martin and the old dead black media, they don't speak to the swing voters. What? But they don't. He doesn't talk to the swing voters. He talks to the base of the base. He talks to the rock bottom of the barrel of the base. Everyone, 100% of everyone who tunes in to Rolling the Bowling Ball, those are not swing voters. Those are the people who are going to vote blue no matter who. They can't turn Georgia purple or Florida purple because, you see, his audience is already in the tank. He doesn't speak to the people on the fence. He doesn't speak to the people in the middle. He doesn't speak to people who are thinking about voting some way other than what he wants. So he's preaching to the choir. We talk to people on both sides and in the middle. The majority of the people who come here, those are the swing voters. Those are the independents. Those are the undecideds. Those are the people who the Democrats need to win an election. And over time, that has become our audience. That is not Roland's audience at all. Nobody's in Roland's audience saying, I was going to vote for Trump, but after listening to your smart, savvy dissection of the facts, I've decided you convinced me, Roland. That doesn't happen. So the politicians are going to talk to the guy who's only going to bring the folk who are already going to vote for them. They're not talking to the people who are speaking to the folks who were not going to vote for you. So you can poach some votes from your competition. They've completely X'd themselves out of that in a desperate attempt to keep themselves safe. And now you're making yourselves safely unelectable. That was not what they were counting on, but that's what's occurred. So being afraid to talk to us is a fatal error. Let me go ahead and get over here on Zoom. I got the iPhone up here on Zoom. What's your name, iPhone?
Good evening, brother Jason Black. This is Jacoby DeMisi from Portland, Oregon.
All right, Jacoby, what's on your mind?
I just want to give you your flowers, sir. I've been listening to you for, I think, since 2013. And you and Tariq had changed my life in a better way. And I just want to give you your flowers on top of that. I don't feel I hope the old black media dies, metaphorically, because there should be no reason why this should have happened in the first place. The old black media and those old civil rights fossils had did irreparable damage to the black community. This should not have happened. They are responsible for putting our children not having jobs, not having opportunity. They're responsible for putting them in prison and letting them rot in there when they knew it was wrong. So I don't feel sorry for them. It would have been a whole lot cheaper if they would have cut the check like they should have.
Well, I don't want them to. I mean, they're already dead, but I do not want them to be forgotten.
Yeah.
Because if we forget the names, if we forget who did this, we forget how it occurred, please understand they will resurrect themselves under a new name. They'll put on some new colors, give themselves a new label, and they'll get right back to it again. So we actually have an obligation to really keep it at the forefront of people's minds and keep them reminded that this is the enemy, this is who's out there, and if we don't keep our eye on them, they will resurrect themselves. I'll let you have the last word.
Yes, sir, Jason Black. And that's very much correct. We always have to be on the clock 24/7 because they will try to reinvent themselves. And the new generation is going to make it. I'm very confident. We are resilient. We are great. We are powerful because we don't, in this generation, after the age of information, we're not going to forget. Once you see what's happening, you feel that, and you come to self, there's something inside you that should change. And so the thing is, what I've done, and I'm going to land my plane after this, I got Dr. Francis Quest Welsing's book, The ISIS Papers. I got the Motors Green Book, the Economic of a Hitman, and Dr. Neely Fuller's first generation book. And I'm preparing my children when I do have children, so they have those books to prepare themselves where I wasn't prepared for when I was younger. And so that's the name of the game. I ain't going to forget a damn thing. But I just want to give you your flowers, Mr. Black. You have a good night.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. I certainly hope not, but the problem is in the internet era, you're flooded with content. You're flooded with content 24/7. And the problem is that when you get flooded with something, it starts slowly massaging you. It psychologically overwhelms you. So yes, you could very easily find yourself in a position, in a situation where you start backsliding and don't realize it. Let me go ahead and jump back over here on Zoom again. We got Brother Elijah over here on Zoom. Brother Elijah, what's on your mind?
Hey, good evening, big brother Jason. Hey, what's going on, big brother? Tonight's broadcast, it hits a little different. It's a bellwether moment because I'm not gonna hold you, but I always say as a student of yours, because I tuned out the regular broadcast media, I don't know nothing until you present it to us every Saturday, Sunday, because I just refuse to listen to them because it took a lot for me to come to the conclusion that this American white system is a complete system of hypocrisy and everything like that. And then you wrote off the civil rights generation 20 years ago. I asked the question, did they ever exist?
Yeah, I mean, certainly they did exist and they do exist to an extent, although they're, being cycled and fading out. So we need to remember what happened and we have to have an honest assessment of what occurred. The problem that we run into, and this was a diabolical, skullduggerous, but, rather effective strategy of the dominant society. For those of you who don't know, they started working on characterizing the, quote, civil rights movement from the minute they killed the icons.
Yes, sir.
They killed Medgar Evers. They killed Malcolm X. They killed Dr. King. They killed Fred Hampton. And as soon as they killed them, they started characterizing it. Dr. King became I Have a Dream.
Yes, sir.
While we're not racist, while Dr. King Day, while we love niggers, and they went straight to work. Malcolm X, the autobiography of Malcolm X, became required reading in college classrooms.
Yes, sir.
We can go down the list. Norman Lear, Good Times, The Jeffersons, directly referencing these things. See, as children, we didn't realize. You realize the man ain't been dead for a whole decade yet. He hasn't been dead for a whole decade, and they got it on network television, so they began addressing it, and so that they could start setting the narrative practically from the moment they killed them.
Yes, sir.
And so we've had decades of them creating this narrative, and they didn't say another word about Dr. King except I have a dream and content of your character, while these people ignore content of character and only see color of skin. And that was the strategy that they enacted and kept using the whole time. So you've never known a time in your life that that's not the way that the society talked. So that was meant to deceive you into thinking that it was something different than what it was. Meanwhile, your needs are not being met and your grievances have not been settled. And you've gotten this distorted fiction that they call the history. Now we started saying, you know what? CBS News and CNN will not write our history. We gonna write it.
Yes, sir.
And now, all of a sudden, the conversation is radically different. We don't even care what they say over there. They don't set the tone of the conversation at all. So all these forbidden things, we keep digging up. Now they got to deal with that. And they don't have a vocabulary for doing so. Because
Yes,
to engage that only takes you down one road. That's it. Their goal was to keep us from ever getting on this road. Now we're here. The problem is that the civil rights generation wanted to forget. They didn't really respect the World War II generation, and they were desperate to finally get the pat on the head. The World War II generation told the civil rights generation, we want you to have an easier life. And in the reckless pursuit of giving their children an easier life, they raised the most vicious group of spoiled brats you could ever imagine.
Yes,
who
sir.
sat up here and they only marched to get personal goodies. And when the government saw that they were willing to get out of the streets as long as they got personal goodies, the government began a strategy of doling out personal goodies. So we will take you on a case-by-case basis. You can get a job at the post office, and you can get a job at the state building, and you can get a job as the elementary school teachers, and you can get a little affirmative action over here, and here's a little Section 8 in welfare. And the civil rights generation said, damn, we has arrived. We can sit back and take it easy. There was absolutely, while the dominant society was thinking about their children and grandchildren, the civil rights generation was only thinking about themselves. So yes, they were very much real. They've very much been there. But their goal in civil rights was personal benefits, not systemic generational change.
I do have a question though, big brother, because you named something about those case by case basis. I want to go back just a few moments ago. What you mentioned about Dr. King and all the when they rewrote his history, all we knew for a long time is that he had a dream, and I'm trying to make sense of this. All right, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about with the civil rights Negroes. Dr. King, after both of those bills were signed, the voting rights of the civil rights of 64. And the last one was the voting rights of 65. Dr. King said out of his mouth, we are in a new phase of the struggle. Okay, that's not my words. Those are Dr. King's words. And there was still more things that he was fighting for. Matter of fact, as you put it to us, he wanted to do at least one piece of legislation at a time because he was fighting for the fair housing and this and that. How did those people, Dr. King was right there, how did they allow them to rewrite there? And they was right there next to him. How did they allow this government to rewrite his message? And they were standing right there. He told them, we are in a new phase of the struggle.
Because the society, the civil rights generation didn't actually back Dr. King.
Oh, okay.
So that is the reality that has been smeared and diluted and confused. The national media would have you believe that the civil rights generation was stomping for Dr. King and that they saw him like the Tupac of the 60s. And that's a lie. The civil rights generation had quiet contempt for Dr. King and Malcolm X. Them niggas need to quiet down. Y'all making things hard for us. We're the Pullman porters. See, the civil rights generation was bragging about being the first nigga.
Right.
For those of you who have them folk in your family, if you talk to them today, you still see that gleam in their eyes when they start talking about the first nigga at something. The first nigga with a stripe in the military. The first nigga that worked at the state building. The first nigga that got hired as a teacher at that school. When you talk to them, you realize that's what they're about. And that's what they've always been about. Dr. King and Malcolm X was quote unquote messing up their good thing. Yes, hey, sir. Man, I almost got my job at the school, man. You messing up for me. You bringing on the heat, man. And so while white people were building brand new suburbs for themselves, black folk were trying to figure out how to get their houses.
Yes, sir.
While white folk were whooping your ass if you wanted to go shop at Woolworths, the black folk were sitting up here and had businesses that were still the best, fighting to go get some nasty ass bland mayo food.
Yes, sir.
And now here we are half a century later trying to go the other direction and saying, you know what? I'm cool on these other folks' places. If we got the best stuff anyway, I'm cool on that. We see the value of it. The civil rights generation rejected that idea because they had a number one, selfishness, and number two, self-delusion. They wanted approval. They wanted it in ways you and I didn't imagine. They wanted that white card.
Yes, sir.
And they were willing to move heaven and earth and sell all of us out to get it. Our attitude is diametrically different. We're the ones who made Malcolm X an icon, not the civil rights generation.
Yes, sir.
He was right there. They didn't do it. They didn't want to do it. As far as they're concerned, it's going to make white folks mad at us.
Right, right.
How am I going to get my cocaine to my white women if y'all keep doing this? Y'all need to pipe down. And then my generation, Gen X, the children who came of age in the 90s, and we went straight for that. We made a beeline for it. And so you talk about Malcolm and Huey and the revolutionaries and Geronimo Pratt and all the others because we resurrected them. The civil rights generation was against us every step of the way. They didn't want us to talk about that. Those are conversations they would not have. And now you realize they did not have them because they could not have them. You all started asking questions about Malcolm X and they couldn't tell you a damn thing about him. Well, they knew he was there, but they couldn't tell you anything.
Right.
And that's when you start realizing, well, I'll be damned, you weren't actually supporting anything. Well, what the hell were you doing? And then you all came to me and I told you how to factually confirm what your greasy ass granddaddy and your mama was doing back in the day. I said, go look at your photo albums. I just gave you all a new way of looking at it. Go look at their photo albums. Go take a look at them when they were your age. They got photographs of themselves when they were your age. Take a look. You're going to see the big, long car. You're going to see the bell bottoms. You're going to see the afro. Yeah, these niggas wasn't looking raggedy. But then take a look at what you got. It's like, well, I'll be damned. They was doing pretty good. Where the hell's my inheritance? You don't have one.
Right.
You don't have one. And it's the same thing everywhere. Y'all are going to see them sitting in front of some big, long-ass Impala. And then you sitting around talking about, well, I'll be damned. Well, what did you build? Dude, that's what they built. I'll let you have the last word.
Okay. I do have one quick comment and one question, and I'm gonna land my plane. All right. The comment is, yeah, you spoke the truth because truth be told, and this was done by a non-FBA brother, but he was the closest you was ever gonna get prior to y'all. The late great Gil Noble and his broadcast Like It Is. After that, the black people who worked at ABC, they never try to resurrect it or go in the same direction. He was truly an anomaly of his own. And when you was talking about those games with the now the question is, when you was talking, and I'm gonna land my plane, when you was talking about the gains of the civil rights movement, there was a turn of no more first black FBA, and now it's still a first black, but it's an immigrant. When did that turn happen, and why did that happen? Something went wrong for that civil rights generation, and I'm gonna land my plane with that one.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things we've had to clear up to begin with. We've had to clear that up and have a more streamlined, disciplined way of doing things.
Yes, sir.
The civil rights generation used to be able to make the assumption that folks were on code because, as Dr. Claude Anderson said, the national conversation was black and white. So it was literally black and white. So it took a lot of the guesswork out of it. What they didn't realize, either because they weren't paying attention or they weren't concerned, was the government was embarking on a campaign to nullify everything they had signed in the 1960s, to nullify that over the course of the next 5 decades.
Yes, sir.
Not the next 5 years, the next 5 decades. So we were all sitting here and, okay, you got them houses after white flight and got your little job at the plant that they're outsourcing. And then you woke up and didn't realize that they're on a campaign to bring in as many immigrants as they can.
Right.
So right after your civil rights bill, here comes your immigration bill. Right after that. So that was the government saying, okay, watch the left hand, but don't look at the right hand. And a lot of folks fell for that because they didn't see it or didn't want to see it. Or they assumed that, well, they're black like us. And back during the days of Garvey, that was true. And right up until the 1960s, that was true.
Yes, sir.
The government began filtering the people they were letting over here. And then they were like, okay, we ain't letting no more Garveyites over. So it became government policy. It became the government policy to select and collect the coons of many nations.
Yes, sir.
That's what you got for the most part now. So that was a conversation that was not centered. You didn't know that's what was occurring. How many of you work at the immigration office or know anybody who does? So these were things that were happening in places we didn't have any news, any purview. We're watching the police. We're watching corporate America. There's a lot to keep your eye on. And they mobilized everything against us, including the immigration department. All of a sudden, they ain't got the problem with immigrants. So you thought. Nah, they just got a certain one they're bringing over because they see how they can use that. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Shout out here to Nancy King. Thank you very much for your support, sister. We appreciate that. My man, Mr. Richburg. Thank you very much for your support here as well. My man, Keith. We appreciate that. Also, Cyberdon, the Scooby Shuffle. Thank you very much for your support here as well. And to everyone who's gotten their memberships here tonight. Logic Before Emotion has handed out some. It's the gift that keeps on giving. We appreciate that as well. Let me go ahead and see if I can get a Zoom user up here. Let me see who that is. Let me get a Zoom user up here. All right, Zoom user, go ahead and unmute yourself. This newfangled technology has got them stunned. Oh, Zoom user's kind of slowing us down here. Brother, you are still muted. Okay, sir, I can't push the button for you. You're gonna have to unmute yourself. Okay, this newfangled technology has him stunned. Let me go ahead and see if I can go to Aaron up here. See if I can get Aaron up here. All right, we got Aaron up here on Zoom. What's on your mind, brother?
Hey, Jason. This is kind of off topic, but I wanted.
Technology has been stunned. Let me go ahead. Turn off your speakers, sir.
Can you hear me, Jason?
Yes, we hear you. I just don't want to hear me. All right, we got Aaron up here on Zoom. What's on your mind? All right, folks, we got some folks here. The newfangled technology has them stunned, so we're going to have to go ahead and move on there. I want to thank my man Tahuti for contributing to tonight's program. We appreciate that. To my man Wesley and also the Najee. Thank you very much for your support here as well. As we embark on the Black Channel tradition, this is something that folks we didn't have here before. People, if Tom Joyner wanted to have a real conversation, instead of having your damn, I'm going to piss a bunch of y'all off here tonight. Did he just say that? I damn sure did.
Deal with it, nigga.
Folks, do you realize here that if Tom Joyner I want y'all to understand what makes a bunch of us mad. At one time, Johnson Publications was making over $200 million a year. At one time, Johnson Publications was making over $200 million a year. Do you realize the media empire that we could have had and should have had today? You got Fox News, which is unapologetically white supremacist and has been since the very first day, has attacked black people, cheered our murders and killings since the very beginning. Johnson Publications been had the money, been had the clout, been had the deep pockets. We should have been had a black focused oriented media empire where we would talk exactly what our issues were. But we need to be clear on something. John Johnson did not get where he was by accident. He got where he was by design. And the design was that of the dominant society. They saw that he was not a Negro looking to upset the status quo. He was looking to increase and improve his position within it. Then you had Bob Johnson, who, ironically enough, didn't get what he wanted from John Johnson. Bob Johnson starts BET, and once again, he was not interested in upsetting the status quo, which is why Malone and the rest of them folk had no problem giving him money. He wasn't trying to upset the status quo. He was simply attempting to improve his personal position within it. People, do you know what the Black Channel could do with $1 billion of free floating capital?
Nigga, what?
Do you know what the Black Channel could do with $1 billion payout like Bob Johnson got for BET or Dr. Dre got for Beats? Could you imagine what we could make happen with that kind of funding, where it's just like literally anything you could think of, you now have the realistic backing to get it? Folks, do you realize what you could do? $100 million, you could go take that $100 million as your collateral and get a loan for $300 million. Do you realize some of the things that we could get done if you had that? Tom Joyner and his ridiculous ass cruises. People, do you realize that if we had Tom Joyner's resources, we would have owned the damn boat? What? We would have had a port of call in Jamaica and Turks and Caicos and all them other things. And we would have talked to the governments and told them, yeah, you tell Carnival and the rest of them fall the hell back. We would have negotiated with them and we would have set up ports of call in all those places. We would have had our people working on them boats. We would have had our people doing the food and the catering. We would have had our people with their merchant marines. We would have had our people in the shipping industry. We would have had all of that sewn up damn a freaking cruise. But did you notice that Tom Joyner has never attempted to do that either? He spent decades trying to get in good with these folks, but notice never actually attempting to acquire any power, any real power influence. But he spent plenty of time on the beach with his personal fitness trainer girlfriend, plenty of time at NBA games, plenty of time focusing on personal benefits for himself. Now that he did do. Sound familiar? But before any of you start getting soft and wobbly, I would just like to remind you, these folks had access to not thousands, not millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. And what did they do? What did they do with it? They got big cars and houses for themselves. They went on cruises, probably had a little Epstein orgy action, which is the only thing niggas like that want to do on them cruises. And then left the rest of the society and said, damn y'all niggas, and hope that you're stupid enough to tune into their program on Monday and not ask any of the questions that I'm asking. Let me go ahead and jump back over here on Zoom. Let me get my man MB up here on Zoom. MB, what's on your mind? Okay, your audio's not on, sir. Try again. Folks are calling me tonight experimenting with their stuff. Try taking your headphones off, see if that works. Okay, folks, I'm not certain what's going on here tonight. Everybody is experimenting with their stuff on Zoom. Not a great idea. Let me see if I can get Will up here on Zoom. Let me get Will. All right, Will, what's on your mind?
Hey, brother Jason, not sure. I've been checking you out for a few years, and yeah, the content is amazing. What I want to ask you is, have you covered Donald Trump and that press conference about the birthright citizenship, saying that the 14th Amendment was for the babies of slaves?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that since the beginning, so certainly I've done a whole program on that.
All right, cool, good stuff. So then my whole thinking when I hear him say that is, okay, now do you have to then address the other laws and policies that were intended for us as far as the benefit us, and then the ones that were intended to go against and sabotage us?
Well, I mean, what you're supposed to do and what they're going to do are two separate things. So because that's politically advantageous for the goal that he's trying to accomplish, he'll talk about the 14th Amendment. All the rest of that stuff you talking about, that's not fitting in with his strategy for what he's trying to accomplish. So that'll be bypassed.
In your opinion, though, is that like a precedent? I never heard a president speak that direct about any type of legislation that they were being critical of.
Well, look,
you see that as a precedent. Every
once in a while, you have a president who comes through and he's wants to be transformational. So that means you have to be willing to, take things on. Rudy Giuliani, when he became mayor of New York, his idea was just to serve one term. So when you have that kind of mentality and that kind of mindset that you're not worried about getting reelected, you basically go for broke. So you can't convince most politicians to do that. Most of your politicians are not your best and brightest. Most of your politicians are just your greediest and most avaricious. Your best and brightest you usually find in corporate America. They're doing startups, and making some real money. Your best and brightest don't really go to politics a lot. So you had somebody like Ronald Reagan, who was in Hollywood and then circled around the politics later. Donald Trump, who was in business, circled around the politics later. Bill Clinton and Barack Obama were lifelong politicians, or at least desiring to be. So that was really the difference. Ronald Reagan, that he had waited for that opportunity because he's seen his whole life. Donald Trump was going to the White House to leave. So those guys really have a one-time mentality to it. They're not really worried about being reelected. And if you actually have that mindset, you can get a lot done if you don't worry about what you're going to break and who you're going to offend. You can actually get a lot done in politics if you're not worried about whether you're going to get reelected.
Oh, indeed. Hey, I appreciate you taking my call. It definitely looked like they got caught out there slipping with that one, though.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Like I say, we'll see where it goes, but what they do know is that they don't have any situation where we don't support it. They do know that they don't see us jumping up saying Trump is wrong and we need to throw the doors open to everybody else. See, that's what they need. That's what they need, and they don't have it. See, we supposed to be the ones to jump up and say, no, man, that go to everybody. See, that's what was supposed to happen. And please be clear, the civil rights generation would have been the first ones up, buck dancing, playing their banjo. I'm talking about we are the world, we are the children. So the civil rights generation, that would have worked on them. They'd be out there, we need to think about everybody, no matter where they come from. They're looking for us to support them, and they know it's not going to happen, so there really isn't anything to stand in his way. Because we're the only ones who could, and we're not doing it. And they know we're not going to do it. So it's like the lane is wide open. They're panicking because the lane is wide open. And the folks that you need to have the legit legitimate grievance. We're the only people who could say that he's illegitimate. We're the only people that you could have stand up and say with credibility that he's wrong. And the problem is we're not saying that. We're saying, oh, no, that's correct. No, what he's telling you is correct. That doesn't mean I back him, but what he's saying, it's correct. Now, how the hell you gonna flip the script when the descendants of the slaves are telling you, yeah, that 14th Amendment is just for us? See, that wasn't supposed to happen. That was not supposed to happen. This was supposed to be the New Yorkization and Los Angelesization of America, where you were so desperate for some interracial sexual access that bring over all the illegals. Where mine's at? So you can whore yourself out. They woke up and realized, yeah, that's not going to work. Not in this generation. So now they're in all kinds of trouble trying to figure it out. No, that 14th Amendment's just for us. We said that with our chest. Now they kind of stuck with it. How do you stop him now when the sins of the slaves are saying he's right? That is just for us. He is correct. Now that's the reason why he's making headway with it. Not because white society says anything, but because black society, the descendants of the slaves, specifically that group. You want to talk about centering the conversation on us? Specifically our group is saying, no, the 14th Amendment is just for us. See, we're making it bad for them because we're standing up and saying it's just for us. We're making it bad for them. We're making it tough. We're making it tough because we're not supposed to be speaking up openly. We're not supposed to be telling them openly that it's just for us. We're not supposed to be doing that. That's the issue. Okay, I'm over here on Zoom. I don't see Brandon up here on Zoom. I'll give you another half a minute here, Brandon. I'm not really sure where you're at here on Zoom, brother.
Yeah, closed on now, man.
All right, what's on your mind, brother?
Yeah, man. Just wanted to go ahead and say, brother, man, you cooking tonight, though, man, and you are most definitely right about the civil rights generation, man. That, you know, as we talk to a lot of these as I talk to a lot of the older folks who been on out there, man, you right. They don't have like any real proof that they were actually in anything. Most of the black folks, though, of that generation, that civil rights generation, they didn't really do nothing. And they don't have any record to show you that they were actually doing anything. You are 100% right. You go ask most of them to see what they were doing in the 70s and in the late 60s and the 70s. They'll draw the picture of, you know, them having a Cadillac, grandma in a damn and a leather skirt, showing off them legs in front of an old Lincoln Continental, and that's about it. They weren't in anything. A lot of them don't have any jail records or anything that they were.
No, they were black Greeks. Nothing. They were trying to be the Masons. They were trying to be, you know, get the HBCU. That's what they were doing.
Yeah, they were doing every damn thing else but up in there. There's only a handful of people that made all that happen. And you are 100% right. When your generation got older and they was rocking the X caps and the cross colors, and y'all was showing pride to Malcolm X and everybody else, and all the other people, and the Huey P. Newtons and the Black Panthers. Yeah, you know, then some of them try to falsify that they were in it, though. But you're right. They can't tell you a damn thing. No first-hand witness accountants that say that, you know, I was there. I was in the stuff. They can't break out their old Black Panther uniforms or anything like that of the sort.
Or their friends. They should have a social circle of folk who is about that life and about that business. When they bring the old folks around, they should be talking like us. They bring the old folks around and ain't nobody talking about black empowerment, the black business, what they did back in the day. They wasn't doing it. Nobody they know was either.
Nope, not a soul. And you're right. No. It was in the 60s and the 70s, though, that civil rights generation, ever sit down and just have some black talk like how we're doing right now? No, just sit back and just talk about white supremacy and what should be our next moves and what we should be doing about it. Though, yeah, they never had that conversation. I have never these types of things? Never. So you are absolutely 100% correct, man. A lot of these people were not involved in that. It is a small few of us who are going to change the world, who are going to change the world. As you stated early in the broadcast, it has always been known that if only a 10% of the population starts having an ideology, it will soon move on to the majority, and that's pretty much what just happened. Hey, 100 people on code is better than 1 million people off code any day of the week. And that's just absolutely true. But I definitely wanted to, before I get up out of here, I definitely wanted to address what the previous caller was talking about with Donald Trump's recognition that the 14th Amendment was created solely for the descendants of the slaves. And that is most definitely 100% true. And these people are shaking in their boots because they have absolutely no grounds to stand on to objectify to it. The Democratic Party was the ones we were fighting against. So not even the Democrats have any leeway, and that was specifically, and we're the only ones who were enslaved in this country. To be 100% factual, the only people that can discuss, if it was ever going to be up for discussion on who the 14th Amendment was created for, it should only be the Republican Party and foundational Black Americans. There should not be anybody who has anything to say, because we're the ones who put the blood, who spilled blood for it. So I don't want to hear nothing that anybody else who is.
Okay, Brother Brandon is breaking up here. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Look, if you want to know just very, very brief about the 14th Amendment, nobody else was being challenged. If you want your proof that it was about us, name anybody else whose legitimacy was being challenged. Show me any citizens. Who were the citizens of America who were born on American soil whose rights under the Constitution were being challenged? No one was challenging Asians' rights. They damn sure were not challenging the Irish and the Italians. No one was challenging the Irish or Italian citizenship at birth. Never. So I can just go ahead and shut all that mess down for y'all real quick. That whose right as a birthright citizens were being challenged or questioned? Just one. The one whose constitutional rights were still not being guaranteed after the 13th Amendment was ratified. Just one group. The descendants of the former slaves. That was it. So you couldn't have been intending it for anyone else because there wasn't anyone else whose rights or citizenship or legitimacy was being challenged. And never has been. Now, folks who are here illegally, people who are here illegally, now that's a different matter. But people who were born here, legitimate citizens and their children born here, we were the only ones who were told that even if you're a legitimate citizen and your children don't have any rights, we don't have to, you do not have any rights that we are bound to acknowledge. Your children don't have any rights that we are bound to acknowledge. We don't have to honor your citizenship. So that's why you had to have a 14th Amendment to tell them, yes, you do. Just like you're honoring everyone else's. That was not illegal aliens. Those were for the legal aliens, not the illegal ones. So anything else is illegitimate, and fraudulent because it was only addressing and referencing us. That's it. Nobody else. Because nobody else was being challenged. So you can't come up with some lie that it was intended for somebody else. Show me the somebody else it was. Whose citizenship was not being honored. Whose children's citizenship was not being honored. Just sit there and wait for them to tell you who it was. Then they're going to tell you, well, all they can really tell you is, well, that don't matter. It need to be for everybody. Yeah, but it's going to be for us. It's going to be for us because we're the only ones whose children's citizenship and legitimacy was challenged. Just us. And it's the height of disgusting to try to expand that to anybody else who came here illegally and say, well, that covers them too. No, it covers the legal aliens, not the illegal aliens. Let me go ahead and jump back over here on Zoom and get Yusuf here on Zoom. Yusuf, what's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, man? You hear me?
Yes, sir. What's on your mind?
Yes. So basically what you were saying in a nutshell is just the internationalization of U.S. citizenship versus the domesticization of U.S. citizenship and how the whole world has come here now, especially people of color can accept can actually be citizens versus that narrow group of people who was here, which is us, the foundational Black Americans. That's the central issue here. Which is that what we're talking about?
Yes, basically that's it. After chattel slavery, they then embarked on a campaign to have a new labor class that they could exploit while simultaneously diluting the numbers politically for us so that the day of reckoning for everything that was taken from us would never have to come. So they bring in these new people, they're illegitimate, slowly or partially legitimize them, or at least legitimize their children. The children assimilate and become honorary white people, and they politically work together with the dominant society to make sure that all the sins that were committed against us never have to be paid for. So you get the best of both worlds, the economics, the labor, and the political, all in one neat little package.
Mm-hmm. So the when Lyndon B. Johnson signed it at I think it was a 1964 Reform of Immigration and Nationalization Act, when he signed that was on the foothills of the Civil Rights Movement when the blacks was very they were not encouraged as being people who was enthusiastically embracing democracy and U.S. patriotism. So they wanted to basically flood the borders and flood the country with a new spirit of enthusiasm with people who was coming here, because the Black Americans, more or less, we was critiquing democracy and how democracy was used against us, and it was not serving our purpose and embracing us as full-blown citizens of this country. So they was trying to use the immigrants as a bulwark.
Yeah, I mean the idea was to publicly present the impression that they were going to address what they were doing to us, while simultaneously introducing legislation meant to neutralize and undo all of it at the exact same time. So they brought in the medication and the poison pill and fed both of them.
Excellent.
Knowing that was what they were doing. And we know that they were that forward thinking because Lyndon Johnson told you that after the Civil Rights Act was passed, these niggas would be voting for us for the next 50 years. They also knew this other legislation would slowly undermine that part of it. So that's why they were not worried. They introduced legislation to give you the idea that they were addressing you, but they knew that they were also bringing legislation that would completely neutralize it. That's why they were okay doing it.
Excellent. So based on what this new ruling that the Supreme Court ruled on, how do you see this going forward?
They haven't ruled on anything yet. All they did was just say that the judges can't stop some of the stuff he's doing. They have not made a ruling on 14th just yet. Not yet, they haven't. We will see. I'll be very interested to see it, and I would be very happy to see them put it where it's supposed to be. The 14th Amendment is just for us. Just for us. And I'm like, okay, at that point right there, now we can start a broader conversation. By the way, that's not the only thing for us. That's not the only thing just for us either. So there's if they see it that way and interpret it correctly that way, that sets up a huge victory there, which sets up a new conversation. Oh yeah, and one more thing. Look for the Roland Martins and the Angela Rye's and the Joy Taylors to all tell you that's a terrible thing. By the way, one more thing. Look for them to tell you that the Supreme Court saying that the 14th Amendment applies just to us as black people. Look for the old dead black media to tell you that's a bad thing. That's terrible if the Supreme Court did that. Just keep that in mind, by the way. The folks speak for you. They're going to tell you that's an awful thing. I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah. So now the building blocks of this legal foundation, in which have some breakthrough in some kind of way based on what recently took place with the Trump administration articulating this. What do you think the legal foundation going forth, say another 20 years from now, 10 years or 5 years from now?
Well, here's the thing. We already have legal foundation already. The real thing is getting them to act on it. There isn't anything that we're talking about or asking today that isn't already codified in law or has some sort of judicial or legal basis for it. The real thing is making the political will or the political requirement to do so. But it's not about giving a legal justification or having the law for it. The laws are already on the books. The justifications are already on the books. The legal justifications for it are already there. What they've been saying is, well, if you niggas gonna vote for us, if we ignore you, we ain't gotta do nothing. So the only thing that's changing now is making it clear that you will not have our support unless you actually act on these things. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. It's not a law if nobody does anything. It's only a law if it's enforced. It is not a law if nobody is enforcing it. If people get to sit right there in front of the courthouse and ignore the law, then that's not a law. It's not even a suggestion. It's just some weird thing that was written down. And this idea that, oh, well, we'll make laws, but we don't have to enforce them or whatever, there's where we're saying, yeah, enough of that. We don't want symbolism. The civil rights generation settled for symbolism and loved it. We're the first generation to say, yeah, damn your symbols. Bring us the real thing. We don't want symbolism. We want the real thing. Now, that was never supposed to happen. We were never supposed to sit up here and say we want the real thing. We were supposed to be cool with symbolism. That's what changed. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Shout out here to my man, Jay Ham. Thank you very much for your support tonight. We appreciate that. Big shout out here also to my man, Calvin. Thank you very much for your support here as well. And to everyone who's contributed to tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend, holidays, some days in between. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time that we're here. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., Gentrified, Race War, 8 a.m. People have already started receiving their DVDs. They are loving it. So I'm very glad that you all got it. So to all the folks who got their autographed DVDs, you got that. We're going to be having the tribute video coming up here very shortly. So for those of you who've been sitting back this holiday, you had a chance to go ahead and soak it up and take it in. I am honored to bring it to you. Thank you again, as always, for your support. And we're just getting started. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's program, live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. Thank you for being here all these many years. We've come a long way. We still have a long way to go. And I expect us all to be here every step of the way. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, eat this, drink this, sleep this, think this, breathe this, feel this, live this, love this. It is everything that we are. Black first.